This is Josh White with JW Math Tutoring, and this video is the second one in my SAT Math Calculator Hacks series. So part one was released a few days ago, and this is going to be part two of showing you how you can solve problems from the calculator section of the SAT Math test using a graphing calculator, specifically a TI-84 plus C model, and it's going to feature 7 additional problems that I'm going to show you how to solve almost entirely on a graphing calculator. So one thing I do want to mention though, just very briefly, I'm not going to basically spend a lot of time or go into a lot of detail into how I am performing these operations or the specific keys being pressed in order to do the things that I'm doing on the calculator. So if you need more instruction with that or more familiarity with that, please check out some of my other videos. There are several that I made for ACT Math where I go into how to perform, basic operations on the graphing calculator, things related to graphing or, zooming in, zooming out, and so on, and also other operations as well. And those I go through in, like I said, a lot more detail, showing the individual steps and so on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right to it.
But life is a dream the calculus could never predict.
Alright, so just before we begin part two of my SAT Math Calculator Hacks series, just want to remind you that, of course, if you like this video, please click the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you will find out whenever I post a new math-related video, whether it's about the ACT, SAT, or other math content in general. Okay, so with that being said, the first problem that we're going to take a look at here is from the May 2021 QAS, problem number 22. Of course, it's from the calculator section since we are demonstrating how to use a graphing calculator here. And here you are given basically a system of linear inequalities that's graphed out. And it basically wants you to come up with, the two inequalities that represent this. So all we need to do is basically go ahead and graph out some of these answer choices, and we will see exactly what's going to be the correct answer to the problem. So I'm going to start with answer choice A. So I'm going to put in just basically y equals 7, because that's the line that corresponds to y is less than or equal to 7. And now all I have to do is go over here and now select, hit enter, select to change the inequality symbol. So I'm going to move it so that it represents basically less than. Now for the second inequality, we've got 2x plus 1. So again, we'll go ahead and graph that, change the inequality symbol. All right, so now we're good to go. We will go ahead and we will graph this out. And basically, if this matches the picture in the problem, then we will have the correct answer. All right, so notice that it actually does not match the picture that you're given in the problem, because the picture wants basically like this kind of left, what a little triangular region here to be shaded, but on the calculator, it's actually like the kind of the bottom right side where they both overlap. So this is not the correct answer, but the lines themselves do appear to be correct. And you would also notice this, if you looked at answer choices C and D, they both have x is less than or equal to 7 as part of them, and that's just going to be a vertical line and then shaded to the left or to the right of it. So these are not going to make sense. Just because there's only an x, that means it's going to be a vertical line as part of the inequality. So by process of elimination, it's B, but let's say just whatever, we didn't recognize that. So now if we want to check answer choice B, so the first thing stays the same, no change. Second one, all I have to do is change the inequality symbol to make it greater than. Now go ahead, redraw the graph, and we should get a picture which looks almost identical to what we're given in the problem. Okay, and it does. The only difference is that the viewing window here goes from like x is -3 to x is +6, whereas on my calculator, the default is -10 to +10. But again, it's the same area where the overlap is. It's basically this region right here where the overlap is, and that matches what we have, given in the problem. So correct answer to this is just going to be letter B. Again, the whole thing can be done on the graphing calculator. Next problem we're going to look at is one from basically the College Board's practice test number 1. One of the 8 practice tests that they release. And so you're given this graph here on the left relating like hours, which is time, to total cost, which is represented by C. And it asks for the relationship between H and C. So notice H down here is basically on the horizontal axis, i.e. this is like our X, and C is up here on the vertical axis, therefore this is like our Y. So all we have to do on the graphing calculator is just take any two of these points from the graph, and we're going to run a linear regression on it. That's going to give us the slope and the y-intercept for the line that goes through those 2 points, and then we will have the equation, again, all done completely on the graphing calculator. So let's go into the stat menu. First we have to edit, and we have to put in some of the points. So let's see, we'll take this one right here, which is 0, 5, and we'll use this one right here, which is just 1, 8. So L1 is going to be my x's, so I'm going to put in 1 and then 0. And then L2 is going to be my y's. So I will put in the 8 and then 5. Now we'll go back to the stat menu, go to calculate, go to option 4, linear x plus b. Make sure the x's have L1, the y's have L2. That's good. Go down to calculate. Okay, so A is 3 and B is 5. So B here corresponds to the y-intercept, or to what we normally associate with B, and A corresponds to M, or the slope. So in other words, it should be C equals 3H plus 5. Therefore, correct answer is just going to be letter C right here. Again, we can do this whole thing entirely on the graphing calculator. Now let's look at a problem from the October 2021 QAS. It's problem number 20, and they give you basically a function here, but there's one spot that is not filled in with a number. So it's basically the function is, k minus x over 1 plus x. Okay, and k is a positive number. It says, which of the following could be the graph of this function, in the whatever xy plane. Okay, and there's a bunch of different possibilities here. So all I would do first is I would go to the graphing screen, and I would just select a value for k. Let's just say 2. Okay, and now I'm just going to graph out that function and see what it looks like. So we've got 2 minus x on top. I'm going to put the whole thing in parentheses, and then divided by, on the bottom, just 1 plus x. And I should also make sure that I change the inequality symbol back to the line, since this is not an inequality with shading. So now when we look at the answer choices, let's see if there's any that we can eliminate right away. So, okay, if you look at C and D, notice the shape of those is kind of the complete opposite of what we have on the calculator. The calculator has this part on the bottom and on the left, and then this part on the right, but C and D are basically kind of like reversed. Like they're in the upper part, they're in the positive y values on the left, a little negative here, but, and then, mainly negative values on the right. So these don't have the right shape. We can eliminate them. And then when we look at A and B, when we look at when we look at how these are set up, which one looks closest to what we have here? So it looks like it's going to be A because notice that in A, this right part of it, crosses the y-axis right here, whereas in B it doesn't appear to, or at least if it does, it's like, way up here very high. Well, sorry, actually it crosses it down here, excuse me. The top part doesn't cross it, but the bottom, part, left part of the function crosses it down here. However, when you look at our graph that we, worked out, which meets the conditions of the problem, which is that k is a positive number, it crossed it on, the positive part of the y-axis up here. So for this one, it's going to be answer A. B is not correct. And again, we can get this just all entirely in the graphing calculator by picking a value for k. And we could choose a different number. We could choose 3 or 1 or whatever, even 4 or 5, just as long as it's positive. And we would get something that's similar to answer choice A. Now, looking at another problem, here we have a problem from the May 2022 QAS. It's problem number 8, and it basically gives you a function, and it says for what positive value of x is this function equal to 13. So there are multiple ways we could actually do this one entirely on the graphing calculator. First method I'm going to show you is using the value operation. So first thing I have to do is just enter in my function here. So I'm at the y equals screen. I'm going to enter in 4x squared minus 3. We'll go ahead, graph it out. And then I'm just going to take these answer choices and just plug them in using the value thing. So we go to calculate, option 1 is value. Okay, so let's check answer choice A. So when x equals 2, basically what I'm looking for is my output, is the value the calculator is going to return, is it equal to 13? Okay, it is, so it appears that that is the correct answer right here. I'm going to check it, but circle it. And so the others are all wrong, but I'll just show you real quick how you could just check them and make sure they are wrong, that they are wrong and not correct. So let's say I want to check answer choice B, which is 4. Okay, so the output, or the y value, or the g of x value, is 61. That is not equal to 13. Now let's check C and D. So here we're going to enter in the square root of 10, close the bracket, divided by 4. Okay, it looks like it's negative 0.5. That is not 13. Get rid of it. And now, again, I'll just repeat it for the last possible answer choice. Again, you do not need to spend time doing this on the test. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes to show you that you can basically solve problems like this on the calculator. So we have square root of 10 now divided by 2. Okay, it's equal to 7 as its output. That is not 13. All right, so there is your answer confirmed as positive 2. Just real quick, a second way you could possibly attack this problem is if you go to table and we look at the table of values. So 2 and 4 are integers, so they're going to show up here, and we could see, and we could just scroll down. Okay, so right here, 2, we have its corresponding y, which is 13, so that would confirm it. And then we could also look at 4, and we could see, oh, it's 61. That's obviously wrong. You can't really check root 10 over 4, root 10 over 2. I mean, you could figure out what the decimal approximation of them is, and then you could scroll on the chart here to like see what two x values it would be between, and see like, is there a value, is 13 between those two y values? But this is just another option, and this would only probably be recommended if all your answer choices were integers. You didn't have any square roots or fractions or anything. But that's just technically a second way you could do it. All right. The next problem is again from the May 2022 test as well. It's problem number 30. And they tell us here that this graph that's shown is f of x plus 1. and they want to know what uh, the function f is. So here's how we could do this entirely on the calculator. So this thing that's pictured is, again, this is the function plus 1, meaning that it's basically the function like shifted up 1 unit, okay? There's a vertical shift of 1 unit. So if all of these answer choices are the original functions, all I have to do is add a plus 1 and then graph them out and see which one matches what I have on my screen. And the easiest way to match it is to look for specific points. So the function that's given here has points, goes through the point 0, 2, and it also looks like it goes through the point 1, comma 4. So those are the specific points I'm looking for to match. So for the first answer choice, I'm going to do 2 to the x and then plus 1. Go ahead, graph that. Now you could technically do multiple answer choices or graphs at the same time on the screen, but I'm just going to do one at a time, just to try to keep it, try to keep everything as least in the least confusing manner as possible. Now I'm just going to go to the table and I'm going to look up and okay, I'm going to see, do I see 0, 2? Okay, 0, 2, yes, that checks. Do I see 1, comma 4? Okay, 1, comma 4, no, I see 1, comma 3, so this one is wrong, eliminate it. Basically, you could make, if you want to on your paper, you could make like a little chart here. This one checks, this one's wrong. Okay, so now go back to y equals, just have to change this to a 3. Everything else stays the same. Go ahead, graph it out. Now I'll go back to the table. Once it's done graphing, there we go. Okay. So we have 0, 2. Okay, that one checks. 1, 4. Do we have that? Yes, we do. 1, 4. Okay, that one checks. So that tells us that this is going to be the correct answer here. In other words, the original function is just 3 to the x, and this function up here is 3 to the x plus 1. Now, again, on the test, you would not need to spend time checking the other two answers, but I'm just going to go through them just to show you real quick that they are incorrect and that this method does work. So the next one is 2 to the x plus 2, because the 2 plus 1s would combine to make plus 2. We'll let that graph. And then once it's done graphing, we will go to the table of values and we will see, okay, do we have 0, comma 2 as a point on it? No, we do not. We have 0, comma 3. So it fails the first one right away. Eliminate it. And now we can check the last one, which will be 3 to the x plus 3. Because again, the 2 that's in the original answer choice and then the plus one we added combined to make 3. Hopefully you recognize just by looking at this one, it's not going to be correct. We'll just go to the table here. All right, and we will go down to 0. All right, 0, 4. That is not a point on the graph. We want 0, 2, so it's wrong. Eliminate it. Just confirms correct answer is letter B. Now we have one problem from the May 2021 QAS. This is problem number 15. And it's basically a quadratic equation that you have here, and C is some number. And it says that it has exactly one solution, so what's the value of C? So all you need to do to figure this out is you can just go ahead and graph basically the possible answer choices. So I'm going to graph x squared minus 2x, and then starting with the first answer choice, minus 2. Okay, now what you do have to know, or basically the background information that you need in order to solve this, is that Since this is equal to 0, like the number of solutions is basically equal to the number of x-intercepts, or the number of zeros that the function has. In other words, this function we can see from the picture crosses the x-axis 2 times. Therefore, it would have 2 solutions, or 2 x-intercepts, or 2 zeros. That means it is not the answer to this question. In other words, we're going to be looking for the function such that when we graph it, it's only going to touch or cross or intersect the x-axis one time. So this one is wrong. We don't need to bother checking them because we can easily see it crosses it twice. You know, it has 2 solutions because the solutions are the x values that give a y value, a corresponding y value of 0. So now we'll go back to here, and the next one, instead of minus 2 now, I just want to check plus 0. I mean, I don't have to type this. I could just delete it, but you know, whatever. I'll just type it, and we'll see what happens when we graph it. So again, notice the same thing happens. It crosses the x-axis twice. There are 2 x-intercepts, therefore there are 2 solutions, therefore it is not the correct answer. Now we'll check answer choice C. So I'll change this to a plus 1. Go ahead, graph it out. And notice this one only has one x-intercept, or 1, 0, or 1 point where it crosses or touches the x-axis. And if you weren't sure of that and you just wanted to double check, you could go ahead and you could zoom in, you know, just whatever, right around this area where it looks like it touches it. Just to confirm it doesn't actually go below, you know, the x-axis and come back up. And yes, you can see right here, you know, basically is the one x-intercept, the 1, 0, the 1 solution. So letter C is going to be the correct answer. I won't bother checking letter D because we already know that it's wrong. But again, this is a problem where you could solve the entire thing on the graphing calculator. Now, the next problem is from practice test number 10. It's problem number 28. And so they give you a function here. And again, there's a just like a k, you know, random variable in it that they tell you is a positive number. And then they want to identify which of the following graphs could it be. So this is very similar to the one we looked at earlier, which that was actually a rational function, whereas this is a quadratic, but it's the same idea where pick a value for k. So I'm just going to say k equals 2. So that means I'm going to go now and graph out x plus 3 times x plus 2. Excuse me, x plus 3 times x minus 2, because the k is positive 2, so it's going to be x minus 2. All right, so notice I don't have a good graph of this because I was still zoomed in from before, so I'll just redraw it with the standard zoom. Okay, and now we get a better idea. So first of all, notice that it opens up, not down. So get rid of answer choice A, get rid of answer choice B. So now we're down to C and D. And here's what you have to notice is that in our graph, the minimum value, i.e. the vertex, is to the left of the y-axis. So that appears to match D, where the vertex is down here, you know, just to the left of the y-axis, as compared to C, which is to the right of it. Now, if you wanted to double check it, and let's say we wanted to pick a different number instead. So let's say we let it equal, you know, positive 4. So therefore, it looks like D is going to be the correct answer for this problem. And the other thing that you have to notice too is that, or the other thing just to be aware of is, so you're given one of these factors here, it's x plus 3, okay? And basically that would give a 0 or an x-intercept of x minus 3. And so when you look at answer choice C, it does not cross the x-axis at negative 3. So you could also eliminate answer choice C just because of that, like, basically right away. Okay. Um, and if you looked at the graphs or whatever and you were like looking at the things to plug in, you could also notice that, like, for example, in answer choice D, here's the negative 3 where it crosses. And over here, it crosses at positive 2. So that actually happens to match the k value that I chose. That actually was not intentional. I just decided to pick 2 as a whatever random value. But ideally, you would notice that value first, and then you would plug it in, and then you would graph it out, and then you would see exactly, essentially what it looks like, which matches the picture I got on the graphing calculator. So that was the last problem in this SAT Math Calculator Hacks Part 2 video. If you like this video, of course, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, check out Part 1 of SAT Math Calculator Hacks. If you have any questions or comments or whatever about this video, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll respond to them. Otherwise, like I said earlier, if you want more specific instructions on how to do some of these things on the calculator, such as just basic graphing or zooming in or zooming out or the other operations I looked at, please check out my ACT math calculator videos, because I go through the operations in much greater detail in those. And just the very last thing, there's also a link in the description of this video to download the operations reference sheet for TI-84 plus model graphing calculator for both the SAT and the ACT.